Welcome to the Portland Amateur Radio Club monthly presentation for October 11th. And this month we're going to be talking with Clint Bradford, and he's going to tell us all about how to work amateur satellites with your handheld. I want to thank Clint for coming tonight. He is part of the AMSAT Ambassador Program, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about that. The nice thing about doing these meetings online is that we can get some great presenters like Clint, who happen to live in just east of LA. Is that right?
1,005 miles down the road.
Yeah. So probably would not have been able to get him to come to one of our nightly meetings or monthly meetings in Portland. But thank you very much, Clint, for joining us.
Good evening, group. Working amateur satellites with your handheld, but there's a couple little housekeeping chores first. Before we begin, K2MAX wants you to know that restrooms for the meeting tonight, if you just go out the door and down the hallway, you'll find the restroom for the meeting tonight. And K2MAX has provided food for us. If you just go down the hall the other way into the kitchen, anything that's in the refrigerator, you're welcome to snack on this evening. Mine tonight is a lentil chili that my wife made. So Max, that's very thoughtful of you. Seriously though, Pat, Wayne, Dan, Max, Pat, Wayne, and Dan, Pat already knows, you're with a phenomenal club. I'm 1,005 miles away, and the history and the brains in this club, you're with the right group. So Peter, Tyler, Alex, you're going to enjoy your relationship with this club. I don't know if you can see the shirt or not, but this is not going to be stuffy this evening. We're going to try and smile a couple times and maybe even learn something. Did you all check out your online newspaper this morning? Max, did you see that?
I didn't.
You didn't see that?
Cool.
That's cool. That's called Photoshop. Okay, but we did though. We were though in March watching this live. All hams are watching this. It was just phenomenal. The first pictures we got from Mars. Then we went to bed and they sent the second picture down, and that came through. And then then the color photos started coming in. Look at the phenomenal detail in this color photo from Mars. Is that incredible? Yeah, Scottsdale, Mars. And on April 1st, the first discovery for humankind, the Perseverance rover discovered where all those socks are that we lose in the dryer. They're right there. They're right there. Max, you gave me the microphone for 3 hours, Max. We're only starting. Seriously, though, earlier this year, during an extravehicular activity, our astronauts changed out a patch cord between our antenna and what was going to be a future client that needed 5 antenna ports. Well, that cable was shorted, and we thought, oh gosh, has this ruined our Kenwood mobile rig? And it wasn't a 4 or 5 month delay. They actually got that done in about 2 or 3 weeks for us. They found where they stowed the old one. Here it actually is, and reinstalled that for us. So our equipment, our 2-meter 440 Kenwood mobile is up and running. It's in packet mode right now, but crossband repeater is extremely exciting. We'll talk about that later. Who was hearing about this in July? The Russian module carrying cargo, not people, but carrying cargo, docked successfully with the ISS. Then its thrusters came on and turned the ISS a whole revolution and a half. This was not fun and games. There's the orbiter. There's the ship there, but don't write anything else down tonight except for this URL. If you go to tinyurl.com/parking job, there's a 17-minute recording of NASA, the European Space Agency, fighting Russia. Honest to God, they're thrustering. They're out trying to out-thruster each other as this Russian module got there and apparently just did not know where it was. Really kind of bizarre. So NASA says no one was in peril, but it turned our ISS, or the ISS, a revolution and a half. Just a couple pictures that I really like from NASA. If you go to nasa.gov, you'll come back with new screensavers, guaranteed. This is the Endeavour coming towards the ISS on her last mission, STS-130. And then I know Pat knows, but who knows what this is? Unmute yourself and let me know if you know what that is. That is the Parkes 64-meter radio telescope that gave us those beautiful grainy TV images during Apollo 11. But look at the focus cabin up there. See that streak of light? That's the Space Shuttle Orbiter Atlantis. Has just undocked from the International Space Station. But it gets better, Max. Look to the right. Look to the right. That streak is the ISS. They just separated about 2 minutes ago, or 2 minutes apart from each other. So this is Atlantis on her last mission. We don't have a shuttle program anymore. The Parks Observatory, that's making the hair on this old man's arm stand up every time I see this photo. I need to thank John Sarkissian of Parks Observatory for letting me use that photo. And then if your significant other ever says that your ham shack is a mess, just let her or him know that, I try to be safe. I try to be safe. There in the circle, there is our Kenwood TMD 710 2-meter 440 transceiver. But yeah, it can get worse, dear. It can get worse. When we work these, these are just intro. We're just introing, Max. Since you gave me 3 hours, we're just going to intro here a little bit. When you work these easy to work FM satellites, just think of them as crossband repeaters in the sky, and it's best if we can work them in true full duplex mode. That being defined as being able to hear the downlink as you key your mic. We lost the Kenwood THD 72A that did that well for us in 2-meter 440 and 440 2-meter modes. You can do it with 2 radios. You can do it with your nice HT you have now and a scanner, but it's just best if you can. The reason why full duplex, you'll know if you're getting into the satellite, and you'll know if you're accidentally stepping on someone else. So here during a show, I have a headset on, so I'm working with the Arrow crossband Yagi. In the background, here's a gentleman with the Arrow, Clint, rented lips with the Elk log periodic with a speaker on so people can hear. He's about 20 feet away, so there's no acoustic feedback. The Arrow antenna is a little heavy, a little front heavy, so I've made mine a little bit more ergonomic. We'll talk about that later, putting that hacksaw handle on there to relieve stress off your wrist, arm, shoulder, and elbow. The story behind this is my wife bought me a Dremel tool, and I had to start cutting up something. She actually found that. We were at the Target store, and she said, there's a flat surface. You can do something with that. Well, thank you, dear. There's 2 lithium-ion biennial batteries in there, and now it's got USB ports on it. But it's just a handy little go-to or carry-out. You put anything on top of there, any mobile rig on top of that. Any engineers in the room? Any engineers? Yeah, a couple. I will take my egg beater antenna with me to conventions, and I'll put it up on a rotator and call it my souffle antenna. Okay, that's not as funny as I thought it was. Egg beaters are wonderful conversation pieces, but my $15 tape measure beam will outperform my $323 M² egg beater any day of the week, especially on 440. Now for 2-meter general receive, they're cool, but they almost always mandate the use of preamps. But they're cool to look at. Here's my QSL card at the Los Angeles County Fair a few years ago. With 2 watts, we just worked 3 countries, not counties: Mexico, the US, and Vancouver, British Columbia. Back then it was AO51. This to me is still exciting, still cool with 2 watts, and I'm still finding folks that find this exciting. All right, speaking of exciting, when did Portland become an ARRL affiliate? Anybody remember? Pat knows. Anybody else know? Don't look it up. When did Portland become an ARRL affiliate? Going once, going twice. 1947. Pat was about 30. I was about there too. 1947. 1947, a postage stamp was 3 cents. A new car was $1,300. Gas was 15 cents. 1947. I have a surprise for you, and I'm just so glad that Pat is here this evening, because I went to your Portland Central Library, looked through the don't laugh, Max. Looked through the archives, and I found a picture of your very first meeting in 1947. There it is, Portland. There's Pat, there's Wayne, there's Dan, there's Matt. There you are, 1947. Way to shoot, guys. Way to shoot.
We were better dressed back then.
You were dressed way better back then. Yeah, not this Hawaiian shirt nonsense. Okay. All right. Well, I already know the answer to this, but please, with a show of hands, who is already an ARRL member? Most of you. Who is not yet an ARRL member? There's a couple. And who just refuses to raise their hands at Zoom meetings? Okay. All right. For those of you who are not ARRL members, ask your fellow club members. They are our largest lobbying body for amateur radio concerns in North America. With your membership, you'll get a monthly magazine. Yeah, I know, 100 pages of ads and 20 pages of articles, but the ads are all amateur radio related, so it's okay. You'll get another email address that you can forward, because Lord knows we all need more email addresses, but you'll get your call sign at awrl.net. You get discounts on their teaching and learning materials. Who's using the equipment insurance plan from ARRL? Okay, Dan can tell you. I'm in Southern California. I'm in California. I've been with State Farm for more than 40 years, and the cost for this plan is less for my computers I'm using, the mobile rig, the repeater in the backyard, maybe not the repeater on the hill. They might consider that commercial, but ask. But it's a better premium than State Farm could offer me. So talk to them. It's arrlinsurance.com. It is a $50 deductible per loss, current day replacement cost. And I think it's $1.45 or $1.50 per $100 valuation. So anyway, the club should be looking at, if you have some club assets, please look into it, arrlinsurance.com. So I like the ARRL. I hear a cat. That was cool. Whoever has a cat, do not mute yourself. Do not mute yourself.
Sorry, that's fine.
No, don't. Where am I? Oh, AMSAT is another organization I volunteer for. AMSAT was founded in 1969 as a nonprofit. Our mission is to build satellites and to disseminate information about them to the planet. We are international in scope. There are more than 30 chapters. We are also a 501c3. We all know what that means. And the other organization that I volunteer for is ARIS, Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. Not only do they get equipment up there for us, amateur radio equipment, but they coordinate those glorious interviews that students perform with an orbiting astronaut aboard the International Space Station. So there they all are. Please look at these, bookmark these. You already have the ARRL, maybe you already have AMSAT. Any AMSAT members here this evening? Any hands going up for AMSAT? Okay, and ARIS, all.orgs. All right, see that parabolic antenna just to the left of center on the main body there? That's not ours, I just really like that picture. For your Christmas meeting, here is the answer to the trivia question that everyone gets asked at Christmas time. How many parking places are there on the ISS? Right now, 4 are being used, but there are actually 8 ports, 8 hatches to which missions can be connected. I had no idea there were that many. Each one adds a little bit of atmospheric resistance. They do reposition themselves due to atmospheric drag a couple times a month. Nothing dramatic. But when you get asked, you now know there are 8 parking places on the ISS. Who's working with Astro Pis? Who's working with Raspberry Pis? Raspberry Pis. Anybody? Oh, Max, they are so cool. We have 2 of them aboard the ISS right now that the European Space Agency has students send projects to. We're going to have a 3rd that you and I'll be able to access here from ARISS. It's going to be the ARISS Pi. But the European Space Agency's project, here it's a Pi 3B Plus, exactly like this one. I don't have that $4,000 case that was mandated, but with the Sense hat on it. And middle school and high school students are sending these projects, and there's Tim Peake, European Space Agency. This is a middle school students project. I said middle school, measuring defoliation in Africa. Can you imagine this young woman's first job interview? Yeah, I've written some code. It's aboard the ISS right now. Do you want to see information about defoliation in Africa? A middle school student, Raspberry Pi, please go to, there's Tim Peake, there's the kids getting the students getting their participation certificates. The next Pi that the European Space Agency is setting up is going to have this camera on it and some more sensors, but astropie.org, if you want to see a wonderful educational site, a wonderful marketing of amateur radio and Pi computers, astropie.org, a wonderful, wonderful site. And then who among us has gone outside early in the morning or after sunset and seen the ISS streak across the sky? Oh yeah. I was at my local Best Buy electronics store and I just started yelling. International Space Station. And here folks are trying to capture it. Uh, my wife and I will go out in the cul-de-sac and just, it doesn't make a difference how many times you've seen it. You just think, my God, there's scientists aboard that. There's people. And some of us hams think that the ultimate FM simplex voice contact is something like this.
NA1SS, Kilo 6, Lima, Charlie, Sierra.
Kilo 6, Lima, Charlie, Sierra. This is NA1SS to Alpha DX.
Commander Weissman, thank you very much for what you're doing for amateur radio this weekend, K6LCS.
If that looks like me about 20 pounds ago with a Yaesu FT60 turned down to 2 watts transmit power, working the ISS, we began when she was 465 miles downrange. That's because, with a $15 tape measure beam. Why did I turn my power down? Well, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Use the least amount of power necessary to make it happen? I knew there's 8 or 9 dB gain in that silly little antenna. This was field day a few years ago. I got it. There's one station I got in before me, and then I talked to Commander Weissman, and then it was Pile Up City. They gave us a couple of orbits that day. But yeah, 2 watts, silly little PVC and tape measure beam antenna. I was also fortunate to orchestrate one of those ARISS contacts at historic Flabob Airport here in Jurupa Valley, California. Historic because it is Chapter 1 of the Experimental Aircraft Association. And our city had just incorporated. We were California's newest city. Our school board was there. Our new city council was there. We had an audio problem that we almost got aborted after a year's worth of work. There are our students talking to flight engineer Don Pettit, and we got ourselves on the front page, above the fold, color photo in California's 6th largest daily newspaper. We were just praying that Paris Hilton didn't get drunk the night before and bump us off the front page. But NPR was here. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. If you've been involved with one of these conversations, one of these projects, it's a year's worth of work for this 15-minute talk, and getting the media to get on board with you. You call the media and say, we're going to talk to the space station. Well, that's cool. When's it going to be? I can't tell you, because you don't know. You don't know till a month out when it might be. You don't know about till 10 days out when it most possibly will be at that time in the morning. But if something comes up on board the ISS or something, this is not the priority. But we pulled it off. We had a great time. Okay, Max, what do you want me to do tonight? Oh, let's see. Working ham satellites with your handheld. Okay, cool. Work ham satellites with your handheld radio. Who am I? Why am I doing this? I've just been a ham since 1994. Involved with the commercial side of things, working for Motorola for a few years, worked at Ham Radio Outlet Anaheim, the universe's largest amateur radio dealer, for a couple more years. We've been on, this is my ego, I apologize. We've been to CQ, we've been on Bob Heil's show, and I have the most patient wife on the planet. Her call sign is BEAUTIFUL, and that's not vanity, it's true. And we have a wonderful adopted puppy. Her name is Freya. And with those ears, we go out in the backyard and do 1.2 every once in a while. Worksat.com is my website, work-sat.com. There's even a phone number there, 909-999-999-SATS. I get those messages about 7 o'clock at night. All right, by those intro slides, you already know the answer to these. You need 100 watts. You need that expensive Yaesu rotator. You need multiple Yagis on the roof, which are grounds for divorce in California. Do we need all that stuff, folks, all together now?
Nope.
Oh, come on, you're only 1,005 miles away. Let's try this again. Clint, it's an expensive proposition working the amateur satellites. Is it all together now?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much. You're good sports. Most of you already have the equipment you need to work these crossband repeaters. There's the iconic ICOM W32A. A friend of mine in Texas has made more than 10,000 contacts. Remember that Anley AL 800 antenna, extended about 20 feet? Put all that stress on your SMA, on your BNC connector. We don't recommend that. If you need some more gain and some more directionality, especially on 440. But hearing the slow scan TV projects from the ISS, people are hearing that and decoding that successfully just with stock ducks. That 2-meter signal coming down is about 6 to 8 dB greater than a similar 440 signal. So improved antenna for SSTV or something handheld Yagi or something to really work them. This is a friend. This is actually a friend of Pat's. Pat, they used to do coffee every Thursday morning. Sir Francis Bacon, "Knowledge is power," are my favorite quotations. Pat, don't take it personally. All right, I started a few minutes late. Anybody know what? Can anybody tell me what time it is? Please.
It's 7:39.
I'm sorry. Can someone tell me what time it is, please?
It's trivia time.
time.
It's trivia time. Oh, they're good. Oh, they're good. Yes, it is indeed trivia time. Oscar, Portland. Oscar is a acronym. Who knows what Oscar stands for? Please unmute yourself and let us know what Oscar stands for.
Orbital satellite carrying amateur radio.
You win a prize. It's not that. You are absolutely right. Orbital satellite carrying amateur radio. And here is the United States' first Oscar 1. Oscar 1. That looks like sheet metal and rivets. Because it is. Anybody hear this project in the 60s? It was just emitted Morse code for a few orbits. No one's going to admit being that old. Okay, that's cool. Look at that surface mount technology. Oh my God. Boy, I don't need a magnifying glass to work on any of that. There it is. Look at that dollar amount. Cost, yeah, we'll talk about modern satellites here in a few minutes, but it only costs $60 to get this off. Look at the Dymo label maker tape. Remember Dymo label makers? Remember, it was always white on black, and then they came out with a cool wood grain tape, white on. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure that froze off, but anyway, that's it. I apologize for this slide. This is more words than anybody should ever put on a slide. I just want you to know that Oscar 1 was in 1961. Oscar 2 failed. Oscar 3 was our first U.S. amateur satellite with a transponder. We've had more than 110 Oscars. It's always been on the shuttles and the ISS. Most astronauts from all countries are amateur radio operators. We just wish they would use our equipment a little more, but we're working on it. We're working on it. The low Earth orbiting satellites, we can work with handheld radios, about 2-hour orbits around the Earth, 250 to 500 miles above us. We don't have a geosynchronous satellite over Central and North America. It would be over Central America. But there's one over the Atlantic that is being used. If you had asked Amstrad about 20 years ago, are we going to have one of these over North America? It was almost no, absolutely not. They're very, very expensive to build. They have to be maneuverable so we don't bump into your Super Bowl coverage in February. And that real estate up there is extremely, extremely expensive. But we have a SpaceX board member who's an amateur radio operator. Could that be our launch opportunity? SpaceX likes doing weird things. This is nothing official at all, but when we ask AMSAT now, it's not a definitive no, never. It's a watch for news the next few years. A few terms you're going to run into working satellites. Orbit is simply the path of the satellite around the Earth. There is a Doppler accommodation on these 2-meter 440 crossband repeaters that you must use on the 440 side of life, on the 440. Now, I asked Max to have you all bring your slide rules with you. Pat, you need to, that looks good, Pat. You need to share that with us. That looks tasty. Okay, Pat, you don't need to get your slide rule out because you'll get grease on it. But let's say the satellite is transmitting 435, 300. You'll acquire it slightly above. So either VFO or program 305 and 310 and work it there. And as it gets right over you, there'll be the time of closest approach, work it on its transmitting frequency. And as you lose it, it'll go slightly below the center frequency. And here's the equation that we can all, with your slide rule, get your slide rules out, we can work this out. No, never mind. I did it for you. Here's a 45-degree pass of a FM satellite, and look at 2 meters, only plus or minus 3 kilohertz deviation, only 6 kilohertz, no big deal. We don't need to worry about that with doing handheld work. But look, it's 440. Look at the 70 centimeter, 20 kilohertz deviation on the 440 side, just by the nature of the Doppler equation. So when it comes to 440, whether receive or transmit, you're going to accommodate for Doppler on the 440 side of these 2-meter 440 machines. If LEO stands for low Earth orbiting, then HEO must be
high Earth orbiting.
Thank you very much, Max. And GEO is geosynchronous. That's kind of redundant. Uplink is your transmitted signal to the satellite. Downlink is what's coming from it. Footprint is the circular or oval area on Earth where you should be line of sight with the satellite. And a lot of the programs we'll talk about later, the satellite path information sites are very conservative with that footprint. We'll talk about that later. That doesn't really help me at all. And you're probably wondering, Clint, why? These are only 10 or 12 minute passes. They should not be used in anybody's 911 plan because they're not going to coincide with your rain or your flood or your earthquake. Does Portland have earthquakes? With your natural disaster? Why even get involved with this? It's just something else we can do in this magnificent hobby we call amateur radio. For me, it's still exciting to take a tape measure beam with me to a park, start talking to a terrestrial station or to a satellite, and get families coming over. What are you doing? What are you doing? And of course, I will have Portland's membership brochure in my pocket. All you can do is just stimulate interest, see what they're doing in school, or you're learning about electronics in school. It just opens up conversations. And it's something that technicians and above can do. They're 2-meter 440 crossband repeaters. That's within technicians' license privileges. Just something else we can do. Another hat we can wear. You can also use that tape measure beam for your T-hunts too. Let's fast forward backwards to 2004 with AMSAT Oscar 51. Cost a little bit more to launch than it did in 60, but this satellite was the most magnificent teaching, learning, as well as marketing tool for amateur radio satellites that we've ever had, and we just haven't duplicated its performance yet, but we're going to. AO51, little CubeSat chassis. There's the payload. We're right there in the front center, just to the left. There are 3 of the same CubeSats on there, but we're the only amateur satellite on this payload. These satellites we're working are sun synchronous. They'll be going north to south or south to north. You'll get to a point where you won't even take your printout with you, or your iPhone or your sat phone or whatever with you. Not sat phone, but satellite tracking program. You'll just know it's going to be either north to south or south to north, whether it's going to be towards your east or towards your west, and about how high it's going to be off the horizon. But they put this into 1.2 gig uplink mode every couple of weeks. We just went any time of day. This thing was just a phenomenally wonderful bird. It passed away, end of service, about 8 years ago. Sun synchronous again, north to south or south to north, and a little bit to the east, a little bit to the west. When your wife goes on her first trip to Tibet for 6 weeks, you go to the Europeans site, the AMSAT Europe and AMSAT UK, and download some of their telemetry program. You can actually decode what some telemetry birds are sending down. Now, this might be too geeky, I apologize, but man, there's solar panel information, there's battery information. You can download this information here in North America, then upload it to their mainframes to let them know how it's performing. Again, best done when your significant other is a few continents away. The Saudis have a satellite up there for us, SO50. I know you're sick of raising your hands, but you won't on this one. How many have a HT battery that's lasted 19 years? HT battery, 19 years, going once, going. This satellite was launched in 2002. It is still working. Well, it's a little off frequency. It's a little finicky to get into. You do need a full 4 watts and a better antenna, but it's still up there working. 2002, folks, that's no lithium ion. So it's a NiCad chemistry of some sort. Why it's still working in that environment, no idea. But SO50 is doable. 440 downlink, 2-meter up. AO27 was a wonderful machine, passed away about 10 years ago, and then for some unknown reason came back 5 or 6 years ago. No idea why. I mean, cold solder joints don't repair themselves in space. Dead cells in a battery don't repair themselves in space. It's been reprogrammed and should work for you for the first 2 or 3 minutes of your North American passes. Yeah, AO27 is back. Unfortunately, AMSAT, the last 2 satellites we've tossed up there, 91 and 92, each are not behaving like we would like them to. Please do not try to access 91 nor 92 unless it's being hit by the sun. Yeah, the batteries are that bad. They're not working like we wanted them to. So again, 91 and 92, please try to work only when illuminated by the sun. AO109 from Vanderbilt also didn't get off the, I can't say get off the ground, that's a poor choice of words, didn't work as expected. Was it because the launch was so many times delayed and it spent that much time in darkness? I'm not sure. But AO109, try to monitor for it. And I'll show you later how you can report what you hear to important folks. So the minimum requirements for working these, a bunch of the Yaesu HTs will let you program split frequencies in a memory location. will allow you to program 2-meter transmit, 440 receive in one memory location. It's not duplex. You key the mic, you don't hear anything at all, but it's just kind of convenient. It's nice to work at full duplex, so you know if you are stepping on someone, and you'll know that you're actually getting into the bird by using your earpiece or headphones, but not absolutely mandatory. Just treat it during the week when it's not crazy. Treat it like your local repeater. You wait for a break in the action, then you key your mic. With the Scouts working this weekend, or the ISS crossband repeater at primetime hours, it's gonna be nuts. Some people call that chaos and mayhem. I just call it just a bunch of hams trying to use all these single channel repeaters all at once. Most of your satellite operators are just wonderful people. I think it's about 97.6% are just fine. No one's out there being malicious and being weird on them. It's just a single channel trying to work a repeater with me down here in the most populous region of the most populous state in the union. It just can get nuts sometimes. So you might have better chances with the ISS crossband repeater overnight. Be an insomniac for a couple nights in a row. Anybody have an FT60 from Yaesu? Yeah, Max, these things have been out since 10, 15 years. It is still the best feature set in an analog FM HT of anything on the market. I didn't say digital, but analog. Receives 108 to a gig, receives AM aircraft properly, easy to manually program, strongest belt clip of any amateur HT on the market, large legible display, and its battery situation. You get the little FBA 25 AA case, populate it with NiCads populate it with nickel metal hydride or with AA alkalins. You can have full transmit power available if you need it. I'm a big fan of not using full power, but you can with the FT60. You put the AA case on your FT70, you have 300 milliwatts for 10 minutes. Put the battery case on your Kenwood THF6, wonderful machine. Battery case with that, 150 milliwatts for a few minutes. The FT60 is a very unique, very exciting rig. And when you program split frequencies on it, it's close to page 28 in your manual. Both the plus and the minus will show up on the Yaesu displays when you properly stored a split frequency memory. To improve your stock antenna, because we all know they're all -3 to -12 dB gain, that's a negative gain, or should I say loss. They're not efficient. The Diamond SRH 320A is a wonderful antenna. It's $50. It's always 14 inches long. The Smiley outperforms the Diamond at half the price. Well, that sounds like a great deal for hams. Half the price and a better performer. Wow. The Smiley fully extended. It's a class full metal rod. Fully extended, it's a quarter wave 2-meter antenna, outperforming the antenna that costs twice as much. Now, putting a metal rod on your delicate HT antenna is tricky, but we'll talk about that. But anyway, the Smiley 270, available in BNC, SMA male, SMA female, and some other mounts. If you're going to be switching out antennas a lot, either to work satellites or T-hunting or whatever, think about protecting your handheld radio's antenna connector. If it's an SMA, SMAs are only rated, good ones, are only rated at about 300 disconnects. Yeah, and if you're using one of these Chinese imports, that's not a quality SMA connector. So think of converting it to BNC and wear out a $15 adapter as opposed to a radio or a $65 repair job on your Yaesu. The exception being the Yaesu CN3 adapter on the left, which I think should be outlawed. And here is why. Imagine putting heavy coax or heavy antenna on either one of these and making a mistake, either bending or dropping the radio. If you drop the radio on the left, the arrow is pointing to metal contact. There's no cushion there at all. Whatever stress is being placed on that adapter is going right to the circuit board, yanking the pin off of your HT's antenna connector, compared to the adapter on the right, which has a beefy cushion to it, that cushiony base that allows you to make a couple, some errors. I hate to harp on this, but when I worked at HRO, hams can be clumsy. I saw a bunch of these come in for repair. They weren't inexpensive radios. It's just they just don't need to be dropped on their antennas. If you're weak at stomach, you might want to turn away from this next slide. I've seen these out in the field. N down to SMA, PL to SMA. Oh, the torque. And let's see, you're the same time zone as I am. If you just had dinner, or you have a pacemaker, please turn away. You have been warned.
The following is not suited for minors. Viewer discretion is advised.
You've been warned. Oh, Max. Oh, Pat. I don't know. I think there's 7. 1, 2, 3. There's an F connector. This guy went to Radio Shack, just bought one of everything. Each have a third of it. Each have a third of dB loss if they're actually physically connected. Don't do this to your radio. Don't let a reporter come by and say, "Oh, is this why they call it amateur radio?" Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. HRO's got jumper cables for you. There is the 2 little diamond rubberized mounts. Ask a fellow ham which fits better. There's a lot of differences on the on how antennas mount to radios and the relationship between the case and your antenna. When your wife goes on her second trip to Tibet for 6 weeks, you whip out your Motorola test equipment and you start testing HT antennas. Max, don't let any new member to your club do this. This is a total waste of time. Have them put their energies towards something else. This is a total waste of time. As we learned in adolescence, longer is better. And for us, 2 meter 224/40 work, about 17 inches is where we want to be for an efficient antenna. Don't test HT antennas. It's a waste of time. UHF, VHF, only if you're done, again, while your significant other is far away. Oh, I remember this ad campaign. Okay, so I think you all know what I'm going to say. Who would like to double the battery longevity on your HT? Who's got an FT70 and doesn't like the battery life? Okay, well, you know what I'm going to say. Put a better antenna on it. That $23 Smiley. Turn your power down to 2 watts. If you're not making it line of sight 2 watts with a good antenna, you're not going to make it at 4 or 5. That's just physics. So I'm not going to charge you for this, Max. This is extra tips. I won't charge you anymore for this. You want to improve your battery life even more? Get an earpiece or a headset. What's the first thing you'll do with a volume control if you stick an earpiece in your ear? You will turn the volume down. Thank you, Pat. What eats batteries? Key in the mic and transmitting, and loud audio. So there, you don't need to get that second battery for FT70, and you just double your pleasure. That's an old campaign. Well, they couldn't do that campaign nowadays, could they? Sexism extraordinaire. Get Perpendicular is a bumper sticker I had on my car until I realized I needed to respect my marriage more. When you key your mic out in the front yard on your HT, your transmitted signal is going essentially 90 degrees out from the top third of the antenna. You're going to hit your neighbor across the street or hit your local hilltop repeater. But most of our amateur satellites are not land-based. 3, 2, 1. Most of our amateur satellites are not land-based. So you need to get that perpendicular relationship to match the orbit of the satellite. And you'll hear it. You're going to open up your squelch all the way, and you will hear a slight dip in the background noise, and you will find the sweet spot as it goes across the sky. So get perpendicular. Pat, this is for you and I, because we're the oldest ones in the room. Santa Barbara Ham Fest a few years ago, the young man on the left, he's got his license the day before. His very first amateur radio contact was working a satellite with me that next day. But it gets better. His dad and his grandfather were there, each working amateur satellites for their first times. That's just one of those photos I want to be buried with. That's just cool. When you get old, you get sentimental and weird like this. And there's that hacksaw handle again, making it, they're front heavy, but you add that pistol to it, you eliminate a lot of stress. I actually made my arrow heavier by making a tray in the back that accommodates the radio, but the pistol grip where it is, it counterbalances everything. So the whole unit is heavier, but more intelligent. Because a few years ago, this is it. See, you can see that gray, that brownish defect in my wrist. And I just went down the street to OHSU and had it examined, and the diagnosis was very evident to them. It was arrow wrist syndrome. Oh, jeez. The band is here. I got to pay union scale for that. Go away, go away. Arrow wrist syndrome. Don't be a victim of arrow wrist syndrome. Make it easier on yourself. Here we are at HRO in Anaheim. There's the pistol grip. The little cue cards I like out at front lets people know we're working the ISS slow scan TV and what the frequency is. There's my bottle of Tang. It's empty, just an homage to our space race. The guy on the roof might be my parole officer documenting what I'm doing. And then Joe Walsh has been a fan of, a great supporter of amateur radio for a long time. Hold everything together in that little tray with a charity bracelet. Because when you think about it, when you go outside, you need one hand to hold the antenna, one hand to hold the radio, one hand to hold the speaker mic, one hand to hold the pencil, one hand to hold the clipboard, one hand to hold the pina colada. You just at some point in time you run out of hands. So these are tripod mountable. You can they're capped 1/4x20. You put it on a tripod, but just do something to eliminate some of the hands that you need, and because we are not octopi. You need to know where these are in the sky. They aren't geosynchronous, of course, so you need to know where they are. Well, here is your AMSAT engineering team. We work 24/7 for you to derive satellite pass data. And Pat, you can get your slide rule out now. Here we go. 2 slide rule references. God. I think you have some. Jeez. This is so Cold War-ish. I love this picture. Anyway, here's the formula. Here's how you derive your satellite pass data for Portland. Are you ready? All you do is plug in the epoch time, element set, inclination, RI of node, eccentricity, arc of the perigee, mean anomaly, mean motion, decay rate, epoch sum. Don't forget the checksum. And you plot that information out on your equatorial graph paper. Got it? Okay, we can continue. We got middle school students. So do this for every pass of every satellite you want to work. Only takes a few minutes. Nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Max. Courtesy laugh. I appreciate it. It's all done for you. Anybody still using a Palm by any chance? Anybody still got a Trio 650? No, okay. If you did, you get your batteries at batteriesamerica.com, batteriesamerica.com. They're on the East Coast. They have not disappointed me in more than 20 years of business. They are wonderful people. They also have a bunch of AA battery cases for your older HTs. Portland already knows. batteriesamerica.com. Another nice satellite tracker program for older iPod touches and older iOS phones is PocketSat 3. We'll give you your past data for you. Hamsat Droid for Droid folks, but what is wrong with that picture? There's a trivia question right there. Let's see, the guy in Hawaiian shirt was talking about sun synchronous. He was talking about what direction? North to south or south? This pass will never happen. This is while we were working. This is a beta test of this program. AL51 will never go east to west. The program is now known as AMSAT Droid Free, and it's now accurate. AMSAT Droid Free for you in the Google Play Store. Gives you beautiful maps and charts of your desired satellites. Anybody have nobody's got a BlackBerry, Clint. Take this out. It's been 50 years. Come on. G-Predict. Good Lord. G-Predict is a phenomenal I usually run it on a 32-inch monitor to my right all the time. It'll control some rotators for you too. It's portable to, it's for Linux, portable to Mac and to Windows. It's a freebie. Here it is, running on the right side there, running on a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. It'll run on a Pi Zero. And it's a freebie, G-Predict. It's a phenomenal satellite tracking program. And right there, it's 1, 2, 3, right there, it's tracking 5 at a time. It'll track more than that for you. Very cool program, G-Predict. That and the Raspberry Pis aboard the ISS just got me turned on to Raspberry Pis. But my go-to right now for the Apple iPhone is GoSatWatch in the Apple Store. Not cheap, it's $10, but it just does everything for you. Scheduling, alerts, alarms, written by a ham in Canada, a responsible ham. Earlier this year, NASA changed the method by which we acquire the ISS's past data. Within 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, he had it rewritten and uploaded to the Apple Store for us. That to me is important. He's approachable. GoSatWatch. If you want to get into this, GoSatWatch for your iPhone. SatPC32 for your Windows notebook or your Windows workstation is a commercial program. We'll also control some rotators for you. And you get a little bit of a discount on that if you're a member of AMSAT North America, amsat.org. Nova for Windows used to be commercial. It is now freeware with a registration code on my site. Any Mac folks in the room? Any Mackers? Any Apple folks? couple. I apologize for this. Look at this nice, beautiful high-res photo for Mac, and look at that jiffy-looking thing for Windows. I apologize. I've been a Mac person for a few years. Mac Doppler Pro, the ultimate for Mac computers. Also commercial, a little expensive, but you get a little bit of money off as a member of AMSAT. It is that time. We're almost through with part one of our three-part series tonight. It is time for Final Jeopardy. Who has the Final Jeopardy answer? All right, unmute yourself. What is our Final Jeopardy answer this evening?
Who is Kepler?
My God, he did it. He did it in the form of a question too. You are absolutely right. You heard me about 8 years ago screaming in delight. It was a summer night. You heard me in Portland screaming. I had never known Final Jeopardy before. I haven't known it since. But you are absolutely right. Johannes Kepler, and that white box in the middle there. Just think of Keplerian elements as a mathematical statement of the orbit of a satellite. And if you want, at 1 o'clock in the morning tonight, we will have a little Zoom session and we will decode that. Great fun. But you're right. Johannes Kepler. I think Pat went to Starbucks with him too. Oops! No, go wrong way. I have. Oh, stop that! I have to thank Sony Entertainment Network every time I play that clip, because if I don't, they have really aggressive attorneys. Online free information for, oh, I'm serious, Max, that cost. Heavensabove.com gives you wonderful satellite pass information. Heavens-above.com, N2YO.com, and our very own AMSAT.org. The first two give you beautiful graphic representations, the beautiful maps and stuff. AMSAT is for the engineers and for the geeks, and I say that lovingly because all it gives you is a page of numbers, a page of columns of numbers. You pick out the satellite you want, the next 20 passes, and it just spits out columns of numbers. And what you're looking for is the higher elevation passes. And then you start looking at the time it starts and where on the compass it begins and where it goes. So also with the AMSAT data, please back out for Greenwich Mean Time. All this stuff is in UTC time. I used to take the phone with me in the bedroom. I don't anymore. I used to get calls, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Clint, it's not there. I go, well, are you using the AMSAT data? Well, yeah, you told me to. Did you back out for Greenwich Mean Time? Click. So back out for Greenwich Mean Time with the AMSAT information. On my website, N2YO made this little widget for me, the popular satellites where they are right now, because the errors I have made and the errors that can be made in all these tracking programs is you accidentally put in the wrong location or the wrong time of day, including daylight savings times and things. I got to HRO for a performance. Yeah, that's it, performance. And I was an hour, it was daylight savings time that night. And I had forgotten, thank goodness it was in the right direction. So I don't know if you can imagine, but I filled some time for an hour. So anyway, time of day and location is very important on those passes. General procedures, listen, open up your squelch all the way. It's weak signals after all, by goodness gracious, from 500 miles away. Here's a weird statement. If you don't hear it, don't key the mic. That sounds weird. But with 27 being worked on, with 91 and 92 being worked on, if a control operator is trying to send it some housekeeping chores or some code, and we transmit at the same time, nothing's going to work. On the West Coast and the East Coast, I never use absolutes, but we always have someone to work with on the FM satellites. And when you start hearing people in Mexico or Vancouver or San Francisco, there are going to be people who know generally it's okay to do it. So wait till you hear someone before you key the mic. Don't be the first one and realize with a friendly call from somebody, darn, we're going to have to wait 3 days to try and reprogram that satellite. On the weekends, it's going to be, I think the technical term is nuts. It's going to be crazy. It might be just a simple exchange to the grid square and goodbye. Some hams are going after grid square contests. They call them gridders. It's going to be a ham events with the scouts on weekends. It just can be just a very quick. You sound great. Bye. Thursday night, 2 o'clock in the morning. Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. You might get a sentence or two in. How much rain did you get in Portland today? You might get something in there, but just know it just might be a very, very quick contact. How far can you go? This is by no means a record. This is 2,000 miles. We each were using FT60s. I apologize, I was using a full 4 watts. We each were using arrow antennas, and it was a 4-degree elevation pass for me. This is by no means a record, nor can I go out and duplicate this every night. But just know, look at the upper right-hand photo. It's telling me I'm not going any further in Arizona, when indeed we went a couple thousand miles. So look for higher elevation passes. If we are at Fire Station 12 this evening, what is the grid square at Fire Station 12? Unmute yourself and win the accolades from your fellow members.
I think it's CN85.
Bingo. Do you happen to know the suffix? We don't need it in satellite work, but do you happen to know the suffix?
I don't.
Okay.
It's
You are good there.
CN85RN.
Who said that?
Michael, AE7XP.
Sir, you are good. You are good.
I knew that.
CN85. And as Max tells you all, use the internationally recognized phonetics. Astronauts like hearing that, and it just makes things nice and clear.
It helps that they're neighbors. I'm in the area.
I worked at the Palm Springs Ham Fest a couple of years ago. I worked the station, and he was literally just out in the parking lot. And people swore that I was just talking to him simplex, just as making the whole thing up. But anyway, yes, Charlie November 85. You don't need to know the Romeo November. We already talked about that. What I take with the shows and stuff, I've got the Kenwood THD 72, but I just, for the price of that, you can get 2 FT60s and get almost the whole arrow antenna. So I just want folks to know they don't need to spend $1,000 to get into this hobby. Use your nice HT that you have now that might have the better receiver, and get one of the better reviewed imports. I can't say Baofeng on the air. I apologize. I'll take the Elk or the Arrow or the tape measure beam with me. There's even plans for dual band tape measure beams. Doug Cook with his scouts found some barbed wire pieces and made a Yagi out of it and talked to the ISS. Barbed wire. You gotta love hams. You gotta love hams. Here's SO50. I used to go way out to where the blue line is, but don't go all the way that out. But look at the 2-meter transmit. Are we accommodating for Doppler on 2-meter handheld? No. But look at the 440 receive. It's a little off frequency, but 436.795 is close enough. Acquire it above, work it towards the center, and lose it a little bit lower in frequency. A lot of satellites require a CTCSS tone on transmit. Leave receive open. And this one requires a 67.0, but what is that? Is there an arrow on your screen? What is that? Anybody know what that 74.4 is there in the center? Huh. Well, let's no. It's let's say you've worked it several times and you just can't get to sleep. It's 1:30 in the morning. You go to the computer room and SO50 is over me right now. You go outside, key the mic on 67.0, nothing happens. Go to 74.4, shoot at 3 seconds of that, and turn on its 10-minute timer. You become the control operator of a satellite. Is that cool? You think I wasn't scared crudless the first time I did that? Oh God, the handcuffs from Amstrad are gonna be tight. It's gonna crash in my koi pond. No, it's got a 10-minute timer on it. And if a fellow ham on the coast didn't know how to turn it on, a fellow insomniac, turn it on with a 74.4, then go back to 67.0 and work it. You become the control operator of a satellite. Very cool stuff. AO91 and AO92, the receive frequency is 2 meters, it's staying the same, but our 440 signal and transmit is going to vary due to Doppler. And again, please, it's going to be tempting. It is so tempting. 91 goes right over the house a couple times a week. It goes right over the barn. Please don't. If it's at nighttime, please don't. We do have definite battery problems with them. So let's put this all together and wind up part one. You know when they're going to be above you, you know where they're going to be in the sky, you know your grid square. You've been to my site or amsat.org and got your radio programmed. Wait for a break in the action, then key your mic. Use your own call sign, please, but I would say Kilo 6 Lima Charlie Sierra, Charlie November 85. And then I will say handheld or demo at the end. Some AMSAT folks don't like me doing that, but it just kind of lets the diehards, the people who have been doing this for years, the grid chasers, lets them know that, hey, there's somebody probably newer on here with low power. Let's let them in. Because you're going to hear that guy in Texas. You know, he's got no acoustics in the room, so his booming voice, foot switch, brown liquor, 100 watts. You know, but it lets people like him just back off to let us. Sorry, Max. It lets others know. And again, most of the hams are not intentionally going to stomp on you. It just is nuts. So saying handheld or demo at the end, if you're in front of a group, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And when you work satellites, start using this page. I can't see this. Hey, Siri, enlarge that last page for me. All right, thank you. This is the AMSAT Live. Yeah, I know, Max. You gave me the mic, Max. You gave me the mic. This is a page of data that you and I enter that doesn't just let fellow hams know what's up and running. It lets the control operators know whether or not the commands they might have given a satellite on the other side of the planet are working. So let's look at the very top arrow is AO92. Red is no, because it's kind of iffy. That's not a good example, but look at the middle one, the second one, SO50. Look at that blue all the way across, meaning that the download and upload were active. Some gentleman in the middle there, that red, maybe he honestly didn't hear it. It's just a mistake. Don't worry about making mistakes. It's no big deal. AO91 is the third arrow. Look at that, blue all the way across. When it's in sunlight, people are working it. The fourth arrow, ISS FM repeater, it's all red. Why is that? Because the FM repeater is not on. The bottom line is showing you that the packet's on, blue all the way across. No matter what the schedule is, ham equipment aboard the ISS will be turned off when there are missions heading towards it, missions leaving it, or when there are extravehicular activities, when there are spacewalks. They just don't like electronics and sparks and explosions, so they'll turn our gear off. And it's very easy to input data on here. You select your satellite, the drop down up there, whether the uplink and downlink were active or not. It reverts to the most current 15-minute. Who? K2MAX, K2CN. Huh? Somebody was working SO50 this morning. Put this data in and hit submit, and it puts that data up there. Again, it's not a toy, it's not a gimmick. It really lets your fellow hams know what's up and running, and lets control operators know. And that donate button on the bottom there, 100% of that goes directly to AMSAT. The ISS, did you know you qualify for this gorgeous QSL card just by hearing the ISS? Just if you hear a packet burst, just if you hear an astronaut answer one of the students' questions on Earth, just if you hear someone talking on the repeater, qualifies you for an SWL box on the back. And then later when you do slow scan TV or FM repeater, you can get another card. But Bruce Hunter here in Southern California is the ARISS QSL manager. His address is on my site. He wants a self-addressed stamped envelope. Slip $1 in there too. He's doing an awful lot of work for us. But this gorgeous QSL card is yours. You don't need to key the mic. You can just by hearing it. All right, Max. That's end of part one. Phew. Anybody have any questions I can try to answer for you? Unmute, anybody unmute, and let me know if there's something I can answer for you.
Hey, Clint, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you showed us a second ago, it looked like interactions with the various satellites, status indicators, kind of a simple matrix, but I missed where you might access that information.
Outstanding. There's a link on my website under tracking the satellites. If you go to amsat.org, there's a link there. It's called the Live Oscar status page. Or if you just Google Live Oscar status page, please bookmark that and use that.
Got it. Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Is the screen still on? Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, this is Kirk.
Yes, sir.
I have tried to listen for the ISS,
Okay.
and I have Heavens Above on my phone, and it lists one set of frequencies. And depending where I look, and I think I've looked at AMSAT and maybe some other places, there's like, well, there's this module in the Russian segment, and there's this module in this segment, and these transmitters use this frequency on ITU zone 1, zone 2 maybe, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I'm up here in Portland. What frequencies do I use, and do I need a CCST or whatever it is to get the thing to open up?
Okay, I heard every word you said. Can someone just read me what's on the screen, just for Clint's ego, please? Someone just read that for me.
Hey, tell Clint to talk more about the ISS.
Thank you for that. I have a bunch of stuff for you, and your answer is coming. There's our 2 meter 440 antenna. That's not me. Our 2 meter 440 antenna on the Columbus module. There are 3 antennas on the Russian module. If you go to ARISS's website, you will find the current status of our equipment. There's where packet is, 145.825, but I've made it even clearer and cleaner for you. There you go. That's on the front page of my website. There's where the ITU region, those are the little weird split FM 2 meter only voice pairs. But if you're gonna program those, program them both. They're both 145.800 down. But you would be really irritated if your neighbor was talking to him on the wrong region just because the astronaut happened to turn on the wrong switch. So program them those both. FM slow scan TV is going to be on 145.800, mostly from the Russian module. 145.825 is packet, and you will hear packet just with your stock duck open swell. You're going to work it. You're going to want some more gain and directionality, but you'll hear those squawks coming from 5 degrees above the horizon. So there's your answers. There's ITU regions 1, 2, and 3. There's the slow scan TV. There's packet. The crossband repeater, the uplink, is 145.99. The uplink wants that 67.0 tone. And boy, if you want to really test the Doppler phenomenon, if it's really crazy on the ISS and you know you're not going to get in, just work these frequencies. It's transmitting on 437.800, but acquire it. Just flip to 805 or 810, and it's a very dramatic difference. And when it's over, you, it's as quiet a background noise as your local repeater. Same thing with slow scan TV. The background noise is nothing, and it's 300 to 500 miles away from you. So there's your frequencies. Did that answer all your question, most of your question?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So work-sat.com also has SO50 on it. I think I had PO 101 on there too, but PO 101 has a strange, the simple ones are there. When you start adding a weird schedule that you have to look at every 2 or 3 days, it just adds more pieces to the equation. So I just want it to be simpler for you. Equipment to work these, don't go to eBay and get one of these classic true full duplex radios for a couple $100, because the first thing you're going to need is a new battery. And of course, we all know we get those at batteriesamerica.com. But remember the FT530 from Yaesu? It had that slide-in drawer for the memory battery. These are the classic full duplex radios. If you see one of these at a estate sale or a fellow ham, or if they're in the club inventory, they're great. But don't go out and buy one for a couple $100. There are no parts available for them anymore. It's just going to be hit or miss. The THD72 from Kenwood was the last manufactured radio that did 2 meter 440 and 440 2 meter modes, each very, very well. The little Wouxun UV 9D Plus that is marketed by PowerWorks, and HRO has them too. That does 91 and 92 well. It doesn't do the 440 receive 2 meter transmit well. There's a decence problem in it, but it will do some of the birds for you well. Again, it's the PowerWorks, the Wouxun, WOUXUN UV 9D Plus, marketed by PowerWorks. PowerWorks is a Southern California vendor, owned by hams, run by hams. You can call them 5 days a week, email them 7 days a week. They're there for you. And that to me is worth a little bit more money that costs than one of the lesser radios. And there are more satellites up there. There are more FM repeater satellites. Again, with strange schedules, or so just a little more finesse to get into them. There's transponder satellites for slow scan for SSB folks, and digital satellites. All that information for you at amsat.org. That's all I have for part one, Max. What questions do we have? Yes. The ISS repeater. I'm upset too that it's not in crossband repeater mode right now, but it will be in the first week of November. We promise. I'll try just for you to get it back into crossband repeater mode for the world. Thank you for that.
I guess my question would be, when's part two? This has been really, really exciting, and I'm looking forward. Max does a great job of posting these to the to YouTube, and that's such a great. I mean, it's always like we're drinking from a fire hose here. But I can always go back to the YouTube videos and do a kind of lay things out in a spreadsheet, and that's proved very valuable. And I look forward to doing that with your presentation, Clint. But what is part two?
Michael, you have an analytical brain, there's the cat, Michael, which I appreciate and enjoy, but please don't overthink this. Just get out in the garage this weekend and make that silly little $15 tape measure beam, and just, for me in Riverside, California, with that antenna, I heard the NOAA weather station in San Diego for the first time in my life. So I knew there was some gain in that, but you can use it for tea hunting later, but just to hear things.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I've done some slow scan TV from the satellites, and that was pretty exciting. But I love to overthink things too.
Slow scan TV from the ISS can be as simple as holding up your radio to your smartphone with a $3 app. There are no cables involved, no Windows drivers, no recordings, no decoding. The $3 app does it for you. That's as simple. It can be as simple as that. The other danger with YouTube videos is what I just told you these last 4 hours is going to be outdated in a week. Right? The ISS is going to change modes. Well, didn't he say it was in packet? So as you cruise the internet for stuff, make sure the website owners respect you enough to date what you're looking at. I had a scoutmaster call me 3 years ago. He was irritated. He had a crowd of 500 people. He wanted to work AO51 and AO27, and he couldn't. And he was irritated with me. They both died, 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, end of service. But it's out there on the web. You put in Google, work the easy satellites, and there's some satellites that have burned up on reentry scads of years ago. So please, amsat.org is wonderful. I kind of like to think my website was last updated 96 minutes ago, work-sat.com, AMSAT UK, AMSAT-UK, some wonderful tutorials on on SSB birds. So just make sure what you're looking at is dated. You can still find articles getting started in the satellites. Now, of course, antenna theory has not changed in a couple of years, but what we can work and frequencies does. So that's the scary thing with me. People ask, Clint, why don't you put this on YouTube? It's just for that reason, because they're not going to read the comment box that says, this is outdated information. They're going to look at it. And so thank you, Michael. But yes, please don't overthink it. You were going to ask me the cross polarization question. You emailed me that earlier. Engineers will tell you that a 90-degree turn of that Yagi is going to provide a 6 to 20 dB gain or decrease in signal strength. And you can prove it to me. You can show it to me on paper, and I believe you. I just haven't had that occur, except for when I'm losing SO50. When SO50 is going away and it's descending, boy, that 90-degree turn is a dramatic difference. So I know the phenomenon is there. Is it because there's so much gain in these antennas that we're just not noticing it when it's right above us? I'm not sure. But when that 440 signal starts going away, you can really dramatically tell. Because every demo, either in front of people or by myself, I will subtly twist my antenna 90 degrees to see what's going on, to hear a transmitted signal or received signal. And I think it's just because there's so much darn gain in the arrow, the elk. The arrow antenna has a narrower frequency range. It kind of captures the initial bit of your pass a couple minutes before the elk, just because the elk has a wider frequency range by design. Each are wonderful investments. The next question is, what is the gain to be realized, pun intended, between building a tape measure beam for $15 and spending $160 on an antenna? That you're going to have to work out for yourself. If you travel with a tape measure beam, make sure you give yourself 3 hours at the airport, because it's a guaranteed cavity search. They have no idea what those are. The arrow and the elk are more elegant, but is there more gain to be had? Elegance versus aesthetics versus gain. That was the longest sentence. I think that's only 3 cups of coffee too. So Michael, please don't overthink it. Go out when the first week of November, just put 140, put the 440 receive side for the ISS crossband repeater. Just go out with the family in the front yard and just watch her go across and just listen. And you'll get it. You'll catch the bug. And I'll be working. I'm having shoulder surgery that last day of this month. I'll be gone for 3 months, but we'll work you in February on SO50, guaranteed. It's a date.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much, Clint.
Absolutely, absolutely. Max, what do you think? Ready for part 2, or should we put that off till next year?
Yeah, no, let's do a part 2, probably early next year. This is actually making me excited. I have a couple antennas, a couple radios. I just need to get out there and point them at the sky.
And that's it. As you start, use 2 sources for your satellite pass data, just in case you accidentally put the wrong grid square in or something. The Keplerian data, update it once a week. You don't need to do it I used to do it every day. No, the only thing that's really going to change is possibly the ISS. Sometimes they maneuver to avoid some space junk. Sometimes they'll maneuver for elevation due to atmospheric drag. So once a week is plenty. And the programs there's 50 programs out there for satellite tracking. I recommended 4 or 5 simply because I know how they work. I know you can get a hold of an author with a question, and they're either reasonably priced or built by hams that care about what they're doing. But there's all sorts of stuff. There's Orbitron out there. It's a very popular satellite tracking program. Has not been updated in 17 years. Has not been updated in 17 years. It still works for folks, but I'm just not going to recommend that since Stanley's no longer supporting it. But it works for folks. It controls rotators. It works. I even know a couple people working. It works on Windows 10 for a few people. But the stuff on my site is to get your feet wet, and then graduate to whatever you want to do in this aspect of the hobby.
I know, it seems like every year.
Comment.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Go comment.
Yeah, and early on you showed a picture of a slide rule. Nobody identified it. Well, here's mine.
Yes.
And also, I have another one.
All right.
I started in the field of civil engineering before 1960, and they were in common use then. Electronic calculators were not.
I could never get used to the circular slide rule. That just blew me away. I could not do a thing with that. But I want to find out. I'm going to look through the archives and see how many references to slide rules this club has had in the last 20 years during a presentation.